So if you have not yet registered to confer, please do so as soon as possible. Tomohiro. No, I cannot hear you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'm Tomohiro Fusagi. Just one point. The fourth presentation is IPv4.8.
Yeah, should be.
Yeah,
Certainly. IPv4 final /8. We don't have any final /8 in IPv6 Lite. Sorry. Anyway, so first item on agenda is annual NEC election. Then, since it, even though it will be, it's happened in the policy SIG session, actually, it's policy SIG chair will not handle this. So let me invite Adam to proceed this election.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Adam Gosling. I support the SIGs and the policy process at APNIC. Today, my job is a little different. I'm going to run through the procedures for the NRO Number Council election that's being held here on site today. There's one vacant seat on the council. It's a 2-year term from the 1st of January 2017 to the end of December 2018. The Secretariat put out a call for nominations on the 5th of July, which ran till the 1st of September 2016, and online and on-site voting is available. For the online voting, this was done via My APNIC, so it was only available to member organisations. The period for that started on Monday the 19th of September and ended at 9 o'clock local time on Monday the 3rd of October. In addition to that, each registered APNIC42 attendee is entitled to one vote as an individual. This is a community election, it's not a member election as it would be with the EC. So the voting period will start this morning. So it starts as announced by the election chair. He'll bring and make sure the ballot box is empty, and when he's satisfied, he'll start the election. It'll end at 2 p.m. local time today, Wednesday the 5th of October, which is the end of lunch. The ballot box will be placed in the voting desk after the election chair announces the opening of on-site voting. That'll be the registration area that you've all seen this week. The ballot paper looks like this. There are 3 candidates. It's orange. And I think it must have a stamp. It should have a chop on it as well, I think. Could someone confirm that for me? Nope. Okay. Declaration of results. The election results will be announced at 3 p.m. 1500 local time, UTC plus 5.5, today 5th of October, or thereabouts. The election chair will also disclose notice at that time. The election chair will disclose any notice of disputes and resolutions, and disclose any communication from the election scrutineers regarding any anomaly or issue. So that will all happen at 3 o'clock. Declaration of results will look like this. Total valid paper ballots, invalid ballots, total ballots counted, on-site votes, online votes, total votes count for each nominee combined, and the total number of votes counted. The election chair will be Rohana Paliyaguru, Sri Lanka cert. So he'll be the election chair. I think he's not in the room yet. Oh, he is there. Good, thank you. I hope you got your name reasonably well. George Kuo and Connie Chan, who are APNIC staff members, are the election officers. They were appointed by the EC as well. And Pupadu and Tuan are the election tellers. I hope they're in the room also. They were appointed by the EC, they're staff members. Alfredo Vederosa and Andrea Soma are the election scrutineers. They're appointed by the election chair. Those people are other RIR staff from other regions. Notice of dispute. Any complaint regarding the conduct of the election must be lodged in writing with the election chair at the conference and be lodged no later than 1 hour before the scheduled declaration of the election. So as I mentioned before, the scheduled declaration is at 3 p.m, 1500, so 1 hour prior to that time in writing to the chair. Notices may be lodged by nominees or members through their authorised voting representatives. So if you're a nominee, you can lodge yourself or the voting representative for a member. The election chair shall resolve the dispute as at his or her discretion. His in this case. We will now have a brief candidate speeches, and I'll invite the chair to take the floor and the mic and continue with. So if you can come up, Rainer, and do the candidate speeches.
Thank you, Adam. Very good morning to you. I am Rohana Paliyaguru, Manager Operations of Sri Lanka CERT, and we are the local host for APNIC42 this time. I am honored to be the election chair for the NROEC election today. So I am going to invite all the nominees up to share their vision as well as what they are going to do once they are elected. So after that, I will open the ballot box and show you that there's nothing inside. Then George and I will take the box outside this room and it will be in the voting desk, which is close to the registration desk. So in the order of the 3 nominations received, I would like to introduce the nominees to you. The first nominee is Rajesh Jain, and the second nominee is Komal Batul, and the third nominee is Henry Kasipi Soimartono. First, I would like to invite Rajesh Jain to come to the mic and share his vision as well as what is the plan which he is having in mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much for allowing me to be the first speaker, and good morning, everyone. Thank you, chairs, for the opportunity to be able to present here. I hope you're all enjoying the warmth and hospitality of this beautiful island. I thank all the organizers and my fellow participants for making this event meaningful. In the opening, we saw honorable ministers of Bangladesh and Sri Lanka addressing us. Lively Monday evening socially is still fresh in our mind. For last 3 days, I attended a few sessions on Sunday at APEX with Chair Toyama-san. Is Toyama-san here? Of JPNAP. There was new initiative of AP pairing forum meet, first one probably in Japan in early 2017. Go BGP of JPNAP, EVPN of IP fusion were certain terms introduced there. Let me just tell you, yesterday in lightning talks, I heard talks on two very refreshing topics by young technical professionals. Is internet fragmenting? This is an issue which concerns all of us. By Shaila Sharman, Assistant Manager NOC, Link 3 Technologies, Bangladesh. Is Shaila here? The second was from Buddhima Sobha Singhe of University of Peradeniya, Sri Lanka on. It's very interesting. A big data analytic identity management system done by the computer and without invasion of privacy. So for example, on Facebook, if somebody takes your identity, the system will be able to predict that this person is now different, and without going into the content of Facebook posting. And this surely is very, very interesting, very much needed. I stand before you, many of you know me. For the benefit of my new community members, allow me to give a short introduction of myself. I am Rajesh Jain, as announced by the Honorable Chair, a telecom and IT professional with over 40 years of executive experience in ISP, IT and telecom business. I spearheaded SpectraNet business, a leading ISP in India for more than a decade. Now I am in an advisory role in the studies affairs with the company. Fellow participants, my association with Internet is more than 15 years, and I'm currently Vice President, ISPAI. I am co-founder and director of NICSI. As a leader in ISP business, ours was one of the first company in India to obtain IPv6 address space from APNIC. This was way back in 2005. And I'm happy to say that APNIC representative, Sunny and his colleague, came to our office in Bangalore to congratulate us that you are one of the first from India, maybe in the region, to take IPv6 space. I also happen to be part of first pilot IPv6 project undertaken by Government of India in 2005. I learned Internet from a book, ISP Survival Guide by Geoff Huston. Geoff is here. Geoff, I learned Internet from a book called ISP Survival Guide by you. And thank you very much by writing that book in 1999. And many of, at least in Indians, they have got benefited by that book. And subsequently, when APNIC happened in 2006, Geoff did spend 10 to 15 days in Delhi, and I had the benefit of interacting with him many times then and in further events. And I also have the benefit of listening to his very clear, very elaborate, very detailed dissertations into various conferences on IPv4, IPv6, DNS route, and others. I have experience, but still I am a student. As learning Internet, we know that it is constantly coming up. I have been actually involved in organizing conferences and events in India. APNIC in 2006, Apricot in 2012, ICANN in 2008, APR-IGF in 2014, where Paul was there, and he gave an extremely good presentation on Internet for beginners. That I still remember that many people were there. He explained the RIRs and how it works. And many SANOCs. First one in 2000 at Mumbai. This was my first exposure to Internet experts, Gaurav, Philip, Kurt, among other things. And it was held in a small hotel in Mumbai. And APNIC SANOC MOU got signed in that 2005 event. I'm not sure if Paul was there in that Mumbai event or not, but definitely Sunny and others were there. From the platform of ISPI, NICSI and ISOC, I have been raising several development issues. Everybody will recognize that internet was new in 1999 in India. Nobody knew, users did not know, regulator did not know, service providers did not know, so it was a joint journey of learning from each other and deeply engaged for internet industry with Indians and at international forums of APNIC, ICANN, IGF. I also attended few Euro-IX and ITU historic meeting in December 2012, Paul, at Dubai, wherein this multi-stakeholder versus multilateral was getting discussed, and I think multi-stakeholder got preference. Now, along with community, along with all of you, I endeavor to work towards seeking consensus view. We know that community works on the consensus basis, effectively represent and articulate concerns, upcoming challenges of APNIC region. In ICANN, PTI, Public Technical Identifier. How many people know what is PTI? Long ago, Maimura Sen explained Mundial into one of the meetings, and now we all need to understand PTI, Public Technical Identifier. Now, how it relates to internet, how it relates to transition. Very difficult to relate, like Mundial. In the new era of post-INR transition, there is a huge responsibility upon IRIs, as I understand from the various information. NRO-NC of representative of APNIC will need to take challenge for effective working of, if I may say, PTI. I can just take 30 more seconds with your permission. The internet of tomorrow need to remain as free, open and accessible as today, and with added responsibility of being a secure one. Along this journey, with support from you all, distinguished members of community, I hereby pledge to work such that APNIC region's aspirations are well represented and met. Thanking you for your patience to hear me. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Brajesh. Komal has informed that she won't be able to come to this conference. So I want to know whether there's anybody in the audience who will talk on behalf of her. Seems nobody there. So finally, I would like to invite Henry Cassifi. So please come to the mic and share your vision.
How much time do I have? How much time do I have? Okay, all right. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Henry Kasvi, one of the nominee today for NRO-NC. I'm from Indonesia. I'm with APG, that's APGII. It's ISP Association for Indonesia. First of all, thank you for the opportunity that has been given to me, and special thanks to everyone, my friends, who has encouraged me to do this. Okay, a little bit about myself. I'm a UK graduate back years ago in 1992. Virtually, I have spent the whole of my life, which is in the past 25 years, in the internet industry. Okay, back in 1995, I created, or I founded, one of the first ISPs in Indonesia. Actually, you know, I was competing with Sanjaya ISP back then in Indonesia in 1995. However, later, we, Sanjaya and I and some other friends jointly set up APG, that's APGAII, Indonesia ISP Associations, yeah, which is this year celebrating its 20th anniversary. So it's quite a long time ago. Another thing about myself, I also co-founded the first and currently the largest neutral internet data center in Indonesia, which today also hosts the open internet exchange, currently carrying peak traffic of around 500 gigs. So it's quite a large exchange. Okay, since then, various other things I've done. You can look it up in my LinkedIn if you want to know more. Starting last year, having been in the private sector for over 20 years, I decided to start focusing myself in the community development. So I came back to APG and got nominated as the Secretary General, as that's my position today in APG. APG has been the NIR for Indonesia for so many years. Our cooperation with APNIC gets stronger and stronger every day. And we also operate 12 nodes of internet exchanges across the nations. We are planning to have 26 nodes by the next 3 years. That is one province, one exchange. Today we have more than 1,000 members, ISPs and direct members. We work a lot with governments because if you know Indonesia, then you need to work with them. You cannot avoid them. So we work a lot with governments, NGOs, various law enforcement agencies, police, armed forces, anti-terrorism units in policy making process. Okay. And those policies are all involving IP numbers. We also collaborate globally. We held proudly and successfully the IGF 2013 in Bali and APNIC40 in Jakarta. Some of you might still remember how fun was it, the APNIC40 in Jakarta. So the reason that I'm outlining this is actually, of course, aside from my interest, personal interest to contribute more to the country, my motivations to nominate today is actually, this is the time for Indonesia to start playing a bigger role globally. Being the country with being the country with 130 million internet subscribers. Yes, that's 130 million internet subscribers. Indonesia can share some of the experience we have, and in the meantime, we also learn from others to continually improve the, our global internet industry. And this 130 million number is actually official survey results this year from APG, which is not yet released. It's going to be released next week, and I'm proudly sharing this with you today. Okay, despite this large number, Indonesia, we have been more or less passive, very silent. I think this is the time for us to be more active, more contributing. Of course, this can happen only if you allow us to do so. Once again, thank you for the opportunity. If elected, I'm sure, I'm confident, I and Indonesia will do our utmost for this global community. Last but not least, good luck for the other nominee, Mr. Brajes. Whoever get elected, we will support each other in the industry as always. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. So we'll move to the next stage of this election. I think George will help me to bring the ballot box here. So we want to make sure that it is empty. so we have sealed it now. Then George and I will take it to the voting desk just outside this room. And I would like to declare the election open, and the ballot box will be kept outside, as I said earlier. And it will be supervised by the election tellers throughout the voting period. So voting ends at 2 p.m. today. Thank you very much. I will give 2 reminders before we close the election. First one will be just before the lunch time, and second time will be just before the election closes at 2 p.m. Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's start regular items of policy succession. So next one is annual number resources status report by Guangliang.
Yeah, good morning, all. My name is Guangliang, Registration Service Manager at APNIC. I'm presenting the NRO Internet Number Resource Status Report. The data in this report is up to 30 June 2016. This report is prepared by 5 NIRs, APNIC, APNIC, AARON, NIRs, and the WebNCC. As we have highest number of the newcomers at this meeting, I would like to speak slowly, and hopefully you can follow me. First, let's look at the IPv4. There are 256/8 in the total IPv4 address space. Out of that, 35/8 were reserved for technical reasons. Yeah, you can see here. And 91/8 were delegated under the central registry. We usually call them historical resource. 130/8 were formally allocated from the IANA to the IIRs. APNIC received it 45/8, followed by AARON 36, WebNCC 35, and NIRs 9, and APNIC 5. In February 2011, IANA allocated its last /A to the IIR. The IANA fee pool becomes 0. That was the IANA central pool exhaustion. Since 2011, this graph has not been changed. Then, after 5 years, how many IPv4 addresses still in each IIR's fee pool? You can see AARON went down to 0. NIRs only has a little. APNIC has less than 50% of a /8. WebNCC also down to under 1/8. Only APNIC still have more than 1/8. Let's look at the IPv4 delegation by years since 1999. You can see the IPv4 delegation was increased from 2002 to 2010, then slowed down after 2011. You should still remember that 2011 is the year IANA Central IPv4 pool exhaustion. After that, the IPv4 delegation has been slowed down. This graph tells you the total IPv4 delegations by each RIR from 1999. You can see APNIC delegated more IPv4 than any other region. Let's move on to the AS numbers. This graph shows the AS number assignments by year since 1999. It is interesting that AS number delegation is very stable. There are about 4,000 to 5,000 AS numbers delegated each year globally. This means there are about 4,000 to 5,000 networks added to the internet per year. This pie chart shows the total AS number assignment in each region. WebNCC delegated over 34,000 AS numbers, followed by AVEN delegated over 29,000 AS numbers. In APNIC case, we have delegated over 12,000 AS numbers. You may know that the original AS number only has 16 bits. We also call them 2-byte AS numbers. The total number of 2-byte AS number is about 65,000. It is not enough for the internet growth. So the internet community decided to extend the AS number from 16-bit to 32-bit. We call it 4-byte AS numbers. The IRs started to delegate 4-byte AS numbers in 2007. Now, all RIRs will delegate 4-byte AS numbers by default. If your network still doesn't support 4-byte AS numbers, please upgrade it. This is the total 4-byte AS number assignments in each RIR. WebNCC has assigned 7,050 4-byte AS numbers, and APNIC also assigned over 4,500 4-byte AS numbers. Finally, let's talk about IPv6. This is the overview of the total IPv6 address space. You know that IPv6 has 128 bits. /0 means all the IPv6 address space. /3 is decided for global unicast address. At the beginning, IANA only used 1/12 for allocations to all RIRs. In 2006, IANA allocated 1/12 to each RIR to improve the aggregations. You can see the table here. Since that, none of the RIRs go back to IANA for additional IPv4 allocation. You can see we only used a very little of the total IPv4 space from this picture. Now, the IR started to make IPv6 allocation in 1999. However, in the first 8 years, there was not many IPv6 allocations. From 2008, people start talking about IPv4 exhaustion. Then the IPv6 allocation was increased. You can see WebNCC is making nearly 2,000 IPv6 allocation per year, followed by NetLink, about 1,000 allocations per year. This chart shows the total IPv6 allocations in each RIR. You can see WebNCC have made over 11,000 IPv6 allocations, which are more than any other regions. APNIC also made over 3,600 IPv6 allocations so far. The IRs also make portable assignments to end users. You can see the IPv6 portable assignment also increased in the recent years. This is the total IPv6 assignments made by each RIR. Both WebNCC and Aaron have made more than 2,000 IPv6 assignments. APNIC also has made 1,268 IPv6 portable assignments. So, after all these IPv6 delegation, how many % of members have IPv6 now? You can see more than 85% of members in NetLink region has IPv6, followed by WebNCC about 75%. Aaron region also have over 50% of their members received IPv6 address. However, in APNIC region, we still have under 50% of members required IPv6 address. According to the APNIC policy, if you have IPv4 address, you are automatically qualified to receive IPv6 addresses. What you need to do is log into My APNIC and click IPv6 1K. You will receive your IPv6 address space immediately. I strongly encourage all APNIC members to get your IPv6 address. This report is updated quarterly. If you want to see the report, you can always go to NRO website. Yeah, this is the end of my report, and thank you. Any questions?
Any questions or comments?
Rajesh Jain here. I just wanted to know in the AS, 2 byte versus 4 byte, is 2 byte being allocated at all, or what is the preference of persons who are asking for 2AS versus 4AS? 2 byte versus 4 byte.
2 byte and 4 byte AS number?
Yes.
You mean how many?
No, not impact. Are you allocating 2 byte still?
Actually, yeah. IANA 2 byte pool is run out this year. So each RIR may have a little bit of 2 byte AS number in their pool, and maybe some returned 2 byte AS numbers. And majority of the member can support 4 byte AS number now. I can say probably 90% or over 90% of the delegation is 4 byte AS number now. Only a few members they have technical reason. They said the upstream didn't support, or the equipment couldn't support the 4-byte AS number, and then we can exchange. This is the case.
Thank you.
Hello, Jeff.
Jeff Houston, APNIC. I'm sorry, your answer wasn't quite correct.
Yeah.
The problem with 4-byte ASNs out there in the ISP community is that in certain parts of the world, and America certainly does it, they use communities for signaling. And what they like to do inside these communities is place at least 2 AS values inside the community string. For 16-bit AS numbers, you only needed 32 bits of community length. But for 32-bit communities, you need 64 bits of extended community, which isn't supported at this point. There is a draft somewhere in the IETF that's going through the process. And the real issue is not, do you support 32-bit ASNs, but at what point will we start to use 32-bit ASNs in extended community attributes that allow you to specify 2 AS numbers inside the community? And we're still waiting for that. So it's not quite true that we're all ready to use, 32-bit ASNs and life is fine. For some folk, what they're doing in 16-bit numbers still won't work in 32-bit numbers, and the drafts are out there, vendors need to get code out, stuff needs to change, but it's not quite ready yet. So the impression that you gave isn't quite the real picture, sorry.
Thanks, Jeff, for your clarification.
Yeah. Is there any comments or questions about this report? Okay, so thank you very much, Guangliang. But your next presentation as well, so let's continue. Next one. The next one will be IPv4 final/8 delegation report.
Okay, welcome to my presentation on the IPv4 final/8 delegation report. The objective of this presentation is to give you an overview of current IPv4 delegations. First, I will look at the current APNIC IPv4 delegation policies, followed by the final/8 delegation by year. After that, I will look at the final/8 pool stock level decrease, the percentage of members who received the final/8 space. Then I will talk about the recovered pool delegations, followed by percentage of members who received the recovered space, and the waiting list for recovered pool. Finally, look at the IPv4 delegation policy in other regions. First, let's look at the current APNIC IPv4 delegation policy. If you have been with APNIC long enough, you will remember 15th of April 2011. It was the day APNIC reached its final/8 pool. Since that, each APNIC account holder can only receive up to a /22 from the final/8 pool. We reserved 103/8 as the final/8 pool. Later, there are some historical IPv4 addresses returned to IANA. According to the global policy, IANA will equally distribute those IPv4 addresses to each IR. APNIC also have some IPv4 address returned by members due to the membership closure. How to distribute those returned display. The APNIC community decided to allow each account holder to receive additional /22 from this recovered pool. So, how many IPv4 can I require from APNIC now? According to the current policy, you can require your first Then, how many % of members have received the IPv4 delegation from the recovered pool? Please look at this graph. Combine the NIR and APNIC members. There are less than 40% of the total members received delegation from the recovered pool. Over 60% of the members still have not got their recovered pool delegations. So, do we have enough space in the recovered pool for delegations? The answer is no. That is why we need to create a waiting list for IPv4 recovered pool. The size from the IANA recovered pool allocation is getting smaller and smaller. Since the first /11 allocation in 2014, we have received it /12, /13, and so on. The last allocation was just /18. The size of IPv4 returned to APNIC by members also smaller and smaller. So, what can we do if we run out of the recovered pool? APNIC secretary created the waiting list for unfulfilled IPv4 requests after discussing it with the community. The waiting list was triggered on 9th of June 2016, when the first time we couldn't fulfill a request from the recovered pool. I would like to expand a bit more on how the waiting list works. Any approved request from recovered pool will be added to the waiting list if it couldn't be fulfilled. Position on the waiting list will be based on the timestamp in order from the oldest to the newest. When additional recovered IPv4 address space is added to the recovered pool, requests on waiting list will be filled according to the position. If you want to know more details, please visit our website at apnic.net/IPv4 waiting list. This is how the waiting list looks like. It has position, size, and timestamp. This list is generated by the system, and the allocation to the list is also automatic. No one can jump the queue. There were some IPv4 addresses put back to the recovered pool since the waiting list started on 9th of June. We have cleaned up about 200 requests from the waiting list. However, you may not get lucky now if you are still on the waiting list. You may need to wait for a long time to get your resource. IANA will allocate a small amount of recover the IPv4 to IIRs every 6 months. APNIC has a system to return the available space to the recover the pool weekly. However, the size is very small. Before I finish my presentation, I would like to share some information about how other IIRs manage their IPv4 pool. WebNCC is very simple. 1/22 for the files from the Files.SA pool for each LIR. The recover, the IPv4, will be added to the Files.SA pool. Ireland, they don't have Files.SA policy. Just let the general fee pool run out. Qualified requests will be put on to the waiting list and allocated from the recovered pool. I just checked the waiting list last night. There were 380 requests on the waiting list. The first one was /16, which was waiting for more than a year. And Ireland also reserved 1/10 for support the IPv6 transition. Let's look at Latling. They are in the soft landing phase. And each member can request up to /22 every 6 months. Very soon, they will move to a new member phase, and only new member can request up to a /22, and there's no additional allocation anymore after that. And APNIC. APNIC is the only IIR still have more than 1/8. They also expect to hit the Files.8 in 2017. So, what is next? IPv4 will going to run out. It cannot continue to support the internet growth. IPv6 is the best solution, and please consider transition to IPv6. Okay. Thank you for your listening. And any question?
Thank you, Guangliang. Is there any question or comment? Well, actually, I have a comment about your slide about stock level. So can you go back to the slide?
Can put it back?
Oh, final /8 stock level. So you have a graph just going down.
Going down?
No, sorry. Go back.
Go back? Here?
Yes, this one.
Okay.
So now we already spent half of final /8, right?
Yes, we actually went down to 45% with mining, means actually 55% of the /A has been allocated in the last 6 years. Yeah, less than 6 years, we went down like 55%. Probably
Okay.
10% per year in the range, but the seems in the last 2 years it's faster, going down.
Yeah, then my point is, it seems it may run out before or around 2020, right?
2020, yes. If continue like that, we went down.
Yeah, then when we discussed about Prop 62 and Prop 115, I believe we expect it last longer, but actually it will run out within 4 years or something like that.
Yes, actually I remember when the policy discussion about Files.8, it was talking about 10 to 20 years. The Files.8 should last for 10 to 20 years.
I remember 20 years.
Yeah, around 20 years. But actually, in fact, it is coming down probably less than 10 years. That's the,
Jeff Houston, APNIC. Look, I gave a presentation yesterday that went through this in considerable detail, and the consumption rates out of that last /8 are increasing. That means that if the rate continues as it has done across 2016, at most it will last another 24 months from today, and it is more likely to only last another 18 months. So you're looking at 1.5 to 2 years if we continue with the most recent consumption rate. 4 years is highly unlikely. Any longer is extremely unlikely.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jeff, for the information.
Yeah,
Okay.
and since in next session we will discuss about final slash rate when we will discuss about Prop 116. So I think it's good material to consider about that proposal as well. But anyway, thank you very much, Guangliang.
Thank you.
And final item in this session is our IPv4 transfer report by Tuan.
Hi, my name is Tuan. I'm from the registration services team at APNIC. So we look after the distribution of internet resources, and today I'll give a report on IPv4 transfers. So the first half of the slides will be mostly stats to show you the transfer trends, and it's mostly how many transfers we've been doing and how much of it has been moving. The second half will be about transfers related to the final /8, or more commonly known as the 103/8 pool, and then I'll give some general observations. So this shows the number of transfers that has been happening every year, so it has been increasing. The intra-RAR, which is in blue, is within the APNIC region. So that's either between APNIC and or NIRs. The orange part, so the inter-RAR, is transfers to and from other RARs. So that's, in this case, those cases, it's either between ARIN or RIPE. And this slide shows the volume of addresses that has been transferred. So you can see there has been a lot more addresses from inter-RAR transfers. And if I grab the orange part of that data, so the inter-RAR part, and I plot that onto a graph, this will show you the direction of where it's going. So you can see that there's a lot more addresses coming into the APNIC region than there is going out. And if I show you the volume of addresses, this will give you a clearer picture of how much is actually coming into the region. So those stats were about IPv4 transfers in general. The following stats will be more of the transfers of the final /8, or the 103/8 portion only. So these were the addresses that were delegated on the final /8 policy. So this slide shows the transfers of the final /8 addresses. At the start, you can see that some of the addresses were transferred under 12 months because there was no demonstrated needs requirement. So what we saw was some accounts received the addresses from APNIC, and in less than 12 months, those addresses were transferred out. Now we expect organizations to use the addresses for more than at least 12 months, because that was what their plan was when applying for those addresses. What we're also seeing is transfers of the final /8 addresses through merger and acquisition transfers. So there's been 187 transfers since 2011. And this slide shows that there are many accounts that have received more than a /22 from the final /8. So this is a result of both the IPv4 transfers and merger and acquisition transfers. So because there's transfers from the final/8 pool, many members have received more than the intended /22. So if you have 4/24s, which is to the far left and not on the graph, it's most likely you've received the maximum /22 from as a direct allocation. If you have 8/24s, which is most of it, quite a lot there, that would mean you've received a 22 as a direct allocation and an additional 22 through transfers. But as you can see towards the end of the chart, these ones towards the end, you can see there's a few accounts that are getting a lot more than the 22s. So the guys that have 40, 52, and 56/24s, they're getting more than, about 10 times more than the intended amount. So we're seeing that final/8 addresses are being transferred within the region, but where else are they going? We've seen some go from APNIC to other regions. So in these cases, it's a tie between the ripe and ARIN regions. Both regions have 3 ranges each. So some observations. What we've seen is there has been a large amount of historical resources transferred from the ARIN region to meet the demand here at the APNIC region. There's been about over 8 million addresses transferred with the inter-area transfer policy alone. We've seen 175 members, so that previous graph, there's 175 members with more than a /22 from the final/8 pool. We've also seen that final/8 addresses were transferred before they were even used. So before the addresses were announced, they've transferred it out. We've also seen that final/8 addresses were transferred to other regions outside the APNIC. So this is the data. I hope you got something out of it. Coming up after the break is a policy proposal. We encourage you to participate, provide your opinions. If you don't know how to participate, please talk to one of the APNIC staff or one of the many policy veterans in the room. Thank you. Are there any questions?
So is there any questions or comment? Okay, thank you very much, Tuan.